Hey friends! Okay, so in our second lesson on measurement, we are going to dive into perimeter and area. Now, this one's kind of a quick lesson. We're only going to deal with it in the metric system. We will look at some perimeter and area questions a little later on with the imperial system, but I haven't talked to you about the imperial system yet. So we'll do those after we introduce the imperial system, okay? So today we're just gonna focus on perimeter and area in the metric system. Okay, so just a couple quick definitions for you. A regular polygon, what we mean by that is a polygon with all sides and all angles equal. So if I just turn on my ink here for a sec, um, we can think of a regular quadrilateral. A quadrilateral is a four-sided figure. Just having some trouble with my ink here. Maybe, oh, there it is. Okay, so if we did a regular quadrilateral, okay, all sides and angles are equal, and we know that to be a square. Okay, if we did a regular three-sided polygon, that's called an equilateral triangle. If we did a regular five-sided polygon, let's see how bad I do on my drawing. That's not too bad, but that's called a regular pentagon. Okay. An irregular polygon would be where all sides and angles are not equal. Okay, so something like a rectangle would be an irregular quadrilateral. Okay, or a triangle where not all three sides are the same. I don't know if you can see my drawing. There we go. Oh, we never finished the triangle. There we go. Where not all three sides are the same. Or even like some crazy shape that looks like that. Okay, there would be an irregular pentagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides there. Okay, so the perimeter is the distance around the outside of an object. Okay, so it's the sum of all the lengths of all the sides of the polygon. We figure out all the lengths, add them together, and that would be our perimeter. In order to calculate the perimeter of a figure, all the side lengths have to be in the same units. You can never do math in two different units, so that's something just to be very, very careful of, okay? All right, so in class example number 1, the question is, what is the perimeter of this figure in centimeters? Now, what I want you to notice right off the bat, not all of the measurements given to you are in centimeters. So, pro tip, all the units have to be the same before you do math. So in our first lesson, we talked about this fun little acronym. King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. Whoops, drinking chocolate milk. Okay, and so we want to take my millimeters, which is an M, and move it over to centimeters. That's going to involve us going one decimal place to the left. So we're going to move that decimal place 1 to the left, which means this is going to end up being 3.6 centimeters. This will end up being 2.8 centimeters. Again, just like we did in our last note, that decimal was here, and then I moved it 1 to the left. Okay, this is already in centimeters, so that's okay. That's okay. Decimeters. For decimeters, that's right here. And so we want to actually end up moving our decimal place to get back to centimeters. We're going to go 1 to the right. So that's actually going to be 4.7 centimeters. Okay, because our decimal place was here right now, and we're just going to move it over to the right one. And then our 4.2 centimeters is totally okay. So now we're ready to add all those up. So we'll just line them all up together. And you can use a calculator, get the total there after we add them all up, and we should get 22 centimeters in total for that perimeter. Okay, it is important that you have your units at least for the answer. I'm not as concerned that you had your units for all of these guys, but you do need to make sure your answer is in final units. If you're not going to write the units here, you just have to show work somewhere where you show the conversion, just like I had done right on top of the diagram, okay? All right, now, what is the perimeter of this figure in meters? Again, if I wanted to do this, I could use my King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. So, King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. I want to go from centimeters, which is right here. And remember, meters is my unit. So I'm going to go 1, 2, U for unit. 1, 2 to the left. So my decimal place was here. 1, 2 to the left. That's where this number is coming from. Remember that I can't start a number with a decimal. So I'm going to start with a 0. Okay? Yay. Okay, let me clear the ink there. And now we'll talk about, we're still going to talk about perimeter, but this is a special case of perimeter, and it's called circumference. Circumference is the distance around the edge of a circle. Okay, so it's like the perimeter of that outer edge of the circle. Now, there are two formulas that you get to use for circumference. Both of them mean the same thing. One is pi d, where d is your diameter, and one is pi r, 2 pi r, sorry, where r is your radius. Okay, they end up being the same thing because 2 radii, that's the plural for radius, 2 radii is 1 diameter. Okay, it is important when you're doing this, now that you've reached the big leagues of senior high, it is important that you actually use the pi button. Okay, so all of your calculators, scientific or graphing, will have a pi button. Take a couple minutes to find that pi button, figure out how to use it, okay, and then use that in your calculations. Okay, so the variable r is used to denote radius, which is the distance from the edge of the circle to its center. So actually in this picture here, that is what's drawn, is the radius. Okay, the variable d is used to denote the diameter. The diameter would be the distance from side to side passing through that center. So it's like I have a radius there and a radius there. That would be the diameter that I just drew. Okay, awesome. Okay, so with that, we're going to take a look at class example number 2. The sides of a flower garden are shown, each 6 meters long. Each end is a semicircle with a diameter of 2.5 meters. What is the perimeter of the flower garden? Now, what we have to remember here is the perimeter of the flower garden is the distance outside. So we need this piece here, and we need this piece here. Well, actually, we know those pieces, right? Those are 6. So I'm just actually going to write a 6 there and write a 6 there because that came right from the question. Okay, then I know that this is 2.5. Okay, because the diameter of the semicircle is 2.5. So the distance from the top here to the bottom would be 2.5. Now, you notice I'm not going to trace that green though. That's actually not part of my perimeter. What I need to figure out is this piece here, whoops, and this piece here. Okay, now when you put 2 circles together, or sorry, 2 semicircles together, they'll make a full circle. So essentially, I need to get the circumference of a circle that has a diameter of 2.5. Then I'll have half of that circumference on this side and half of that circumference on that side. Okay, so my perimeter ends up being 6 plus 6 plus pi times my diameter, which is 2.5. Okay, so then I can go ahead and put that in my calculator. 6 plus 6 plus 2.5 times pi, or pi times 2.5, that doesn't matter. Okay, and when you do that, you will be looking at a decimal. If you have a newer Casio, your newer Casio will actually display that with the pi symbol there, but you will find a button there that says S to D. If you press that, it will toggle back and forth between the exact value and the decimal. Okay, you're going to want to answer as a decimal because on a test, that feature of a graphing calculator will actually get turned off. Okay. All right, so that sets you up to do on my own number 1 to 5. I do want you to pause me, go and try that. Make sure you're feeling good about it. Check your answers right at the back of that lesson, and then come back when you're ready, okay? All right, welcome back. So now our first couple of questions talked about area. Now we're going to switch and do some perimeter work. Okay, so sorry, I said that completely backwards. Let me try that again. I was staring at the title that said area in my defense. Our first couple of questions talked about perimeter. Now we're going to switch and talk about area. All right, so Area is the total amount of surface that an object covers. Okay, so if I see this square here, I'm going to color in the area of the square. We're talking about all of that. Okay, area is measured in square units because there are two dimensions involved. There's a length and there's a width. Okay, so I've got some formulas here for you. The triangle is base times height divided by 2. You just have to remember that the base and the height will always form this 90-degree angle, so you'll see that box there. A square is essentially length times width, like a regular old rectangle would be. The special thing about a square is the length and the width are the same thing. So we say that it's side times side, or side squared. Okay, and then the rectangle is length times width, and the circle. The circle is the pi times the radius squared. So it's like pi times r times r. Okay. All right, so let's try class example number 3. We're going to calculate the area and perimeter of the following shapes. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. So nearest tenth means one decimal place. Now, you are told that the diameter of the circle is 16 meters. And so what that means is the radius is 8. So if I wanted to calculate the perimeter, I could go pi times 16, or I could go 2 times pi times 8, depending on which formula I was using. For the area, that's pi times r squared. So that'll be like pi times 8 times 8. Okay, so we're going to start with the circumference. I chose to do pi d, so pi times 16. And when you put that in your calculator and round to one decimal place, you should get 50.3 meters. Okay. Okay, then the area is pi times r squared. Now you should have a squared button on your calculator. For many of you, it will look like this as a button. Okay, and so you would go pi times 8 and then press that button. Okay. All right, so that should give you, if you've got it in your calculator properly, 201.1 meters squared. 201.1 meters squared. Now, when you're doing this, just don't forget that your units have to be squared when you're talking about area, okay? Because area is in 2 dimensions, okay? All right, calculate the area and perimeter of the following. So we've got this triangle here. The outsides of the triangle are all given to us. They're just given in like 4 different pieces. So if I was going to do the perimeter, I just add up those 4 pieces. So I've got that 6.3, the 4.3, the 3.5, and the 5.8. That takes me 6.3, 4.3, 3.5, and 5.8. So I've gotten all the way around that shape. I've also done a quick check to make sure that all of the measurements given to me were in the same unit, and these were all in centimeters. Okay, so then I just add them all together. So P will be 19.9 centimeters. Okay, now the area, I need the base times the height. So the base of this triangle is right here. Let's see if I do that one more time. The base, come on, come on, come on. And the height is right there. I don't know if that's going to appear magically for us or not. Doesn't look like it. There we go. So the base is 5.8 plus 3.5. Both of those together will make the whole base. And then we're going to times that by the 2.5 of the height. Okay, then we divide by 2. So 1/2 base times height. So that'll be 1/2. And then I've got that 5.8 plus 3.5. That's the full base. And then a height of 2.5. Throw all that in my calculator. And I'm going to get, rounded to one decimal, because that's the nearest tenth, 11.6. My units, centimeters squared. Okay? All right. So that's going to set you up to try some additional problems with On My Own 6. And then that's where we'll call it quits for today. Okay? Make sure you try these practice questions and have some fun with them. Show your work, show all the steps, and make sure you're asking me questions if I lose you anywhere. Okay? You got this. Take care.